My father drained my entire savings to fund his stepdaughter's luxury trips. He thought I'd just move on, until I launched a chain of exposures that turned his perfect image into dust. "You're lucky to live here, you know that?" That was one of the first things I remember my dad saying to me that actually stuck. Not because it meant anything, but because he said it like a warning. "My name is Alex. I'm 20 years old, and I grew up in a gated community in Scottsdale, Arizona. Marble sidewalks, fake Tuscan fountains, and neighbors who smiled with their teeth, but never with their eyes. My dad, Lionel, lived for that kind of world. He wore custom-tailored suits even on Saturdays, always drove a brand-new Mercedes he couldn't afford, and hired a landscape architect just to plant exotic bamboo along the driveway. He once told me, "A home should look like it costs more than it's worth. That's how you win." I was 8. I didn't know what winning meant back then, but I figured it had something to do with the screaming match I overheard that same week. My mom crying over an unpaid water bill, while Lionel yelled about a $1,000 barbecue sculpture he bought as a statement piece. That barbecue, a modern art nightmare made of bent steel rods, still sits in the backyard. We didn't have running water for a week. "Don't ask your mom for new shoes," he told me once after I came home with holes in my sneakers. She's not made of money, but she was the one who kept us afloat. Quietly, invisibly. She worked nights doing medical coding from the guest room, wearing noise-canceling headphones while Lionel hosted poker nights and bragged about his connections to people who later stopped answering his calls. To everyone else, Lionel was the picture of success. He could charm realtors and waiters with the same fake laugh. But at home, he reminded me often, "Kids like you don't get to complain. You're not growing up in a trailer, are you?" When I was 11, he made a scene at my school's open house because the teacher said I was bright but unfocused. On the ride home, he told me he could have been a lawyer if he'd wanted to waste his potential, then made me sit through a lecture on posture and eye contact. "No one takes a sloucher seriously, Alex." My mom left when I was 13. It was messy. Lawyers, court dates, supervised drop-offs. Lionel turned custody into a game of chicken, accusing her of parental alienation every time she asked for an extra day. He kept me not because he loved me, but because it made him feel like he won. And so I grew up in a house where everything looked polished on the outside and nothing worked on the inside. A house where money was always leaking out the cracks, but the suits were always ironed. A house ruled by a man who only saw family as an accessory to his ego. Lionel met Cassandra the way he met most people who became temporary fixtures in his life, at an overpriced wine tasting that neither of them could actually afford. She introduced herself as an independent art consultant, which, in Lionel's world, translated to knows how to use words like aesthetic dialogue without laughing. She had bleached teeth, fake lashes, and the kind of rehearsed charm that made people lean in just to hear more nonsense. They were engaged within 6 months. By the time I was 17, Cassandra had moved in. She brought with her a daughter, Zoe, 17 going on 30, with perfect eyeliner and a phone permanently glued to her hand. Zoe didn't talk so much as perform, like every moment was an audition for a show that only existed in her head. From the second she stepped into our lives, Lionel was obsessed. He called Zoe sweetheart and princess, and other things he hadn't said to me since I was in kindergarten. Her laugh, which was fake and sharp and always 3 seconds too late, seemed to unlock something in him. I watched him nod along to her made-up problems like they were business meetings. She mentioned once that she liked a specific influencer's necklace. 2 days later, the exact one showed up on the kitchen counter, gift-wrapped. Meanwhile, I was still using the same broken calculator from sophomore year. At school events, Zoe got flowers and front-row seats. I got told to stand straighter and smile like you're not bored. She posted every moment online. Her new car, her fancy nail sets, even the ridiculous brunches Lionel took her to, so she could vent about the stress of being young. She cried in front of him once. Actual, perfect tears, because someone on TikTok called her cringe. That weekend, she got a spa trip and a new iPad. I pulled AB in physics and got told, "You could have pushed harder." Cassandra didn't even pretend to hide the favoritism. "Oh, Zoe's had a tough year," she'd say whenever I dared to ask why she got special treatment. "She's adjusting, Alex. You should try being supportive instead of bitter." Supportive. That was the word they used a lot. Whenever I raised a question. Whenever I didn't smile at the new wallpaper Cassandra chose for the kitchen that made it look like a hotel lobby. Try being supportive. Like I hadn't already been duct taping my self-worth together for years in this house. That Christmas, Lionel gave Zoe a limited edition designer handbag. I got a used laptop, literally used, like from Craigslist, with a crack on the lid and a post-it note that said character building. He said it with a wink, like he thought he was giving me some priceless lesson in humility. The truth? I stopped expecting anything from him a long time ago. But watching him pour everything into this new fantasy family, Cassandra, the polished partner, Zoe, the influencer in progress, while I became background noise, that stung in a way I hadn't prepared for. Because it wasn't just that they overlooked me. It was that they rewrote the script, and I wasn't in it anymore. At 16, I got my first job. Graveyard shift at a bakery cafe off the freeway. It smelled like cinnamon and burnout. I'd get home by 2 a.m., shower, nap, then drag myself to school with crusty eyes and a headache like clockwork. Lionel told everyone he was proud of me. Alex is really stepping up, he'd say with a grin over Sunday coffee. Learning the value of hard work. A real man's path. But when my car broke down and I asked if he could help with repairs, he laughed and said, "That's part of being independent, kiddo. You figure it out." So I did. I walked to work for a month straight, past the rows of luxury homes that looked identical in the dark. Saved every tip, every paycheck. Put it into his savings account. Lionel insisted we open jointly. "It'll teach you financial maturity," he said. "Adult responsibility." I didn't argue. Back then, I still wanted to believe he was trying. I watched my balance climb in tiny increments. $30, 60, then 200. After a year, I had over 5,000 saved. By the time I turned 18, it was nearly 18 grand. Every dollar was for college, for getting out, for peeling away the mask I had to wear every time I was in that house. And while I was budgeting down to the cent, Zoe was doing unboxings on her Instagram, limited edition sneakers, skincare bundles, LED vanity mirrors. She wrecked her first car within 3 months. Lionel bought her another one the same week. Didn't even blink. She once posted a crying selfie captioned, "People think money makes you happy, but sometimes I feel empty too." It got over 9,000 likes. I remember staring at that post during my lunch break, sitting on a milk crate behind the bakery, eating cold bagel scraps because I couldn't afford anything else that day. Lionel praised me constantly, told everyone how proud he was of his self-sufficient son, said I was an old soul, a hard worker, but he never lifted a finger to help. If Zoe mentioned she was stressed, he bought her massages. I got a pat on the back and a monologue about how real success means suffering in silence. I started keeping a spreadsheet, income, expenses, long-term goals. I color-coded it, gave myself little digital stars whenever I stuck to budget. It was pathetic, maybe, but it kept me sane. I never touched the account, not even when I needed new glasses. Not even when my tire blew out on the highway and I had to Uber to school 2 days in a row. That money was sacred. It was my exit plan. Meanwhile, Lionel would walk through the front door with shopping bags from boutique men's stores, bragging about the new silk tie he scored on steep discount. Cassandra would roll her eyes playfully and say, "Don't let Zoe see that or she'll demand one too." They'd both laugh, and I'd be in the next room, silently eating dinner off a chip plate, calculating how many more weeks I'd have to work before I could finally leave that house behind. Because I wasn't really part of that family anymore. I was just an employee they didn't have to pay. It was a Wednesday morning when I found out my entire savings was gone. I had just finished a math quiz and stopped by the bank on my lunch break. I was planning to finally pull out some money, just a couple hundred, to put toward repairing the dented hood on my car. The teller smiled, tapped her keyboard, then blinked. "Looks like this account was emptied last week." I stared at her. "No, I haven't made any withdrawals." She turned her screen so I could see. A single transaction. The full balance. 18,000 and some change. Gone. Taken out at a different branch, one I'd never even been to. I stood there frozen, hearing my own pulse in my ears. The bank manager confirmed the withdrawal was authorized by the other account holder, Lionel. My father drained my life savings. I walked out of the bank in a daze, sat in my car, and tried not to puke. The next hour was a blur, digging through Zoe's latest social media post with trembling fingers. And there it was. Pictures of her and her friends on a yacht. A private island rental. Designer shopping bags. Matching swimsuits, poolside drinks, the whole fake luxury fantasy. Caption, "Recharge weekend with my girls #deserved." Deserved. I called Lionel. He picked up on the third ring, sounding cheerful. "Hey, sport, what's up?" I didn't waste a second. "You took my money. All of it." There was a pause. Then that same condescending tone he always used when I was younger. "Relax, Alex. Zoe needed a break. She's been under so much stress lately. You're young. You'll make it back. You stole from me." No, don't be dramatic. It's a joint account, remember? Legally, it's mine too." I was shaking. That money was for college. For my future. And it still is, he said, with that infuriating calm. "This builds character. You'll thank me one day." I hung up. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just sat in the parking lot, watching the world move around me while I stayed still, hollowed out from the inside. Then I drove to my mom's place. I hadn't told her much in the past year, mostly to protect her, and partly because I was embarrassed by how bad things had gotten. But the second she opened the door and saw my face, She knew. What did he do? She asked, pulling me inside. I told her everything. Her mouth tightened. Her eyes went cold. And without another word, she pulled out her laptop and started making calls. We went to the bank. She consulted a friend who was a lawyer. But the verdict was the same. It was a joint account. Nothing illegal. Nothing the police would touch. He set it up that way on purpose, she muttered. He's been planning this. I sat on the couch with my head in my hands while she paced, furious. And then she stopped. We're not getting that money back, she said. But that doesn't mean he gets away with it. She picked up her phone and dialed my cousin Marcus, a tax intern with a sharp mind and a personal grudge against Lionel. If we can't beat him in court, she said, we'll beat him somewhere that actually matters to him. His ego, his image, his precious facade. That was the moment it changed. The moment I stopped being the quiet, obedient kid in the background and started planning to burn his entire house of lies down. We didn't come at him with rage. We came with strategy. My mom took the lead, digging through old emails, receipts, and paper trails Lionel had left over the years. Marcus, my cousin, brought his intern-level tax skills and a hatred for Lionel that had been simmering since childhood. I provided the emotional fuel. Together, we formed a kind of petty avengers. Step 1. Documentation. We pulled bank statements from the joint account, matched the withdrawal date to Zoe's yacht trip photos, screenshotted timestamps, recorded phone calls, including the one where Lionel said, "It's a joint account, kid. You'll make it back." Proof of everything, down to the minute. Step 2. The court of public opinion. It started with a single Facebook post on my page. Just a calm, factual breakdown. No dramatics. Just receipts. Saved for 2 years working nights. 18 grand gone. My dad used it to fund his stepdaughter's influencer vacation. Said I'd make it back. Then screenshots. Then the side-by-side of my bank account and Zoe's Instagram story flaunting new jewelry in a 5-star suite. I ended it with, "This is what family looks like when appearances matter more than people." I hit post. Sat back. Waited. Within hours, it exploded. Old neighbors commented. Former coworkers. Even one of his poker buddies from the HOA chimed in. Always wondered where he got the money for those suits. Shares climbed into the hundreds. Then the thousands. Cassandra's lifestyle vlog followers caught wind. The comments on her page turned vicious overnight. Gold digger confirmed. Is this the Zoe you said was self-made? Girl, not you raising a con artist. She tried damage control. Sent me a long DM filled with faux concern and passive-aggressive sweetness. Alex, I'm so sorry you're upset. This seems like a big misunderstanding. Maybe we can talk this out privately? No need to ruin your father's reputation over a little miscommunication. I posted her message. All of it. Added my own caption. Ah yes, the classic sorry you're mad apology. Comes with a side of gaslighting. Her followers turned faster than a pack of wolves. I didn't even have to say much after that. They did it for me. Lionel called me that night. Not to apologize, that was never his style, but to try to reclaim control. This is immature, Alex. You're embarrassing yourself. I let him rant for a bit. Then I said, calmly, you always told me I was lucky. You said this house, this life, was a gift. But I finally realized it was all rented. And guess what, Dad? Rent's overdue. He was silent. I continued. You made your name off lies. I'm just letting people read the fine print. Click. That was the first time I ever hung up on him. I stared at my phone, heart racing. Not with fear, not with regret, but with a satisfaction so sharp it almost felt like peace. He wanted the spotlight, needed the applause. I just turned the lights on and showed everyone the cracks in his mask. Lionel always talked about money like it was a game. Flashy, strategic, high stakes. But like any gambler, he never expected anyone to look under the table. Marcus and I did. He started digging through public records during his lunch breaks at the tax office. Property records, court filings, tax liens. It didn't take long to find the rot. Lionel had taken out a second mortgage on the house 2 years earlier. Then a third. He was juggling loans from 3 different banks, none of which knew about the others. The man was a magician with paperwork, smoke, mirrors, and just enough forged pay stubs to keep the circus going. We found a lien for unpaid taxes from 2 years ago, 2 maxed-out credit cards and collections, 1 civil suit from a private lender, and a denied small business loan where he claimed to run a financial consultancy, despite not having a single client or license. This guy built his life like a Jenga tower, Marcus muttered one night, scrolling through PDFs, and you just pulled out the bottom piece. A friend of mine, Jenny, used to babysit for one of Lionel's neighbors. She still had a spare key to his office from back when she watered their plants during vacations. I didn't ask questions. I just told her we needed access for 1 hour. We found unopened mail stuffed into drawers, hidden behind old poker trophies and unpaid HOA fines. A desperate loan application written in all caps. 3 rejection letters, and a handwritten spreadsheet trying to track his monthly expenses versus projected future brand collaborations, which was his way of saying Cassandra will probably land a sponsor soon. It was laughable and sad, but most importantly, it was evidence. We built a full financial profile, cross-referenced loan dates with social media posts, created a spreadsheet showing how their spending, cars, luxury trips, home improvements, far exceeded any verifiable income. Then I went nuclear. Anonymously, of course. First, I sent a detailed email to Lionel's firm's compliance office. Included screenshots, links, attachments. I knew they wouldn't ignore it. Financial firms are allergic to risk. Second, I tipped off the IRS. Just a clean file with suspicious income patterns, underreported assets, and inconsistent filings. The kind of red flags that get audits started. Third, Cassandra's lawyer. I found the contact on her website, posing as a concerned family friend. I sent over Lionel's fake financial documents and a list of questionable withdrawals from Cassandra's joint account. Made sure to highlight that some were used on Zoe's business expenses, including a $900 ring light and a trip listed as branding retreat. The last straw came from inside. Zoe found a folder I'd planted in their home office, one labeled Emergency Fund. It was empty except for a printed spreadsheet showing every debt Lionel owed, every payment missed, and a bold header that read, "This is what he's hiding. Ask your mom." She did. According to my friend who still followed Zoe's private spam account, that night ended in a screaming match. Cassandra trashed the living room. Zoe smashed her phone. Lionel tried to talk his way out of it until Cassandra called him a con man and locked herself in the guest room. By morning, Cassandra had frozen their accounts. Zoe posted a black screen with "taking a break" and vanished offline. And Lionel, he finally realized the walls were closing in. Because the empire he built on lies, borrowed cash, and Instagram clout, it wasn't just cracking anymore. It was collapsing. The collapse wasn't loud. It was quiet, the kind of quiet that makes people lean in, whisper, and slowly back away like they don't want to catch whatever's going around. Lionel was pulled from all his client accounts within days. Officially, his firm said it was a conflict of interest review, but everyone knew what it really meant. The partners had seen the file I sent. The rumors were confirmed by screenshots. And in a business built on trust, Lionel was a walking liability. The man who used to stroll through the office in $1,000 suits was now working from home, not by choice, but because no one wanted him in the building. Cassandra moved out a week later. She froze all joint accounts and filed for divorce, citing financial deceit and exploitation of family resources. Her lawyer was vicious, efficient, the kind of woman who smiled like she'd already won before court had even started. Zoe deleted every account she had. Her Instagram, gone. TikTok, wiped. The same girl who once posted hourly now vanished into digital oblivion. People noticed. A former neighbor commented under one of my old posts, "Didn't that girl brag about a skincare line last month?" Weird how fast things change. Friends stopped inviting Lionel to social events. The guy who used to boast about exclusive golf memberships was suddenly too busy or out of town. Truth was, no one wanted to be associated with a scandal, especially one involving stolen money and a Facebook expose. Even his car got taken. The silver BMW, his pride and joy, was repossessed right in front of the house. Marcus filmed it from his car across the street. We didn't post it, but we watched it more than once. The possessions started disappearing too. First the watch collection, then the designer furniture, then the home gym that had never been used. Everything he once used to impress others was listed quietly online. Craigslist ads written like he was doing spring cleaning. But we knew. He was drowning. He tried contacting me again. Voicemails, texts, even an old-school email with the subject line "Family Matters." Guilt-tripping nonsense. How could I betray him? How could I hurt the family's legacy like this? Legacy. That word made me laugh. Then the tone shifted. He started hinting at legal retaliation. Said I was spreading falsehoods and libel. Said I'd regret this. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. Because every move I made, I had receipts. Timestamped. Documented. Verified. And he knew it. He was unraveling. The man who once held all the power, who used to control every narrative, every holiday, every family photo, was now a pariah. Out of money. Out of lies. Out of time. But I knew him too well to believe this was the end. Because Lionel wasn't built to accept loss. He was built to lash out. And something in me knew he wasn't finished yet. It was a Thursday night, just after midnight. I had just finished mopping the cafe floor when the front door jingled. I turned, expecting my manager or maybe a late straggler with caffeine cravings. But instead, I saw Lionel. He was standing there, swaying slightly, shirt wrinkled, hair a mess. Not drunk in the fun, party sense. Drunk in the "I've lost everything, and now I'm dangerous" sense. "Alex," he slurred, pushing the door open wider. "We need to talk." I froze, mop still in hand. My manager, Rachel, poked her head out from the back kitchen. Her eyes met mine, asking without words if I needed help. I gave her a slight shake of the head. "Not yet." "What the hell are you doing here?" I asked. He laughed, a slow, bitter sound that didn't reach his eyes. "You think you've won, huh? Think you're better than me now? I think you should leave. You ruined my life." He stepped closer. "Do you even understand what you've done? Cassandra's gone. My firm dumped me. My friend's gone. I'm being audited, Alex." "Audited?" I set the mop down slowly. "You did that to yourself?" He stopped moving. For a second, he looked almost sad, like he wanted me to believe he was just a broken man who'd made a few mistakes. "I was trying to build something. For us." I scoffed. "No. You were building a shrine to your own ego. I was just a name on the family portrait you kept polishing." He stepped forward fast, too fast. Before I could react, he shoved me. Hard. I stumbled back, hitting the counter. "You ungrateful little shit," he snapped, voice rising. "I gave you everything." I pushed back instinctively. "You took everything." He lunged, fist clenched, face red. It wasn't a slap or a shove this time, it was a punch. I felt the pain explode in my cheek and tasted blood immediately. Rachel screamed from behind the counter. Hey, back off." She ran out, phone already in hand. "I'm calling the cops." Lionel hesitated for a moment. Then he looked at me again, like he didn't even recognize me anymore. "You think this makes you strong?" he growled. "Destroying your own father?" "You're not my father." I spat, breathing heavy. "You're just a man who used me until I stopped letting him." The sirens must have been close, because he bolted. But he didn't get far. The cops tackled him less than a block away. DUI, assault, resisting arrest, the full package. I ended up in the ER with a fractured cheekbone and bruised ribs. Nothing life-threatening, but enough to keep me sore and off work for a week. The hospital bed was uncomfortable, but I didn't care. Because for the first time, the damage he did was visible. Documented. Real. Police reports. Medical records. Security footage. I pressed charges. I didn't hesitate. Not for a second. Rachel gave her full statement. The cafe backed me. Even the responding officer seemed disgusted when he read the call log and saw the bruises. And just like that, Lionel wasn't a manipulative narcissist with a good tailor anymore. He was a criminal. The illusion was gone. The mask shattered. And whatever was left underneath. It wasn't my problem anymore. The courtroom was colder than I expected. Not in temperature, just in vibe. Like even the walls were tired of hearing excuses. Lionel sat 2 rows up from me, flanked by a public defender who looked like he wanted to be anywhere else. His suit didn't fit. His tie was crooked. He looked nothing like the man who used to preen in front of mirrors before HOA meetings. He didn't look at me once. I took the stand. The judge asked me to walk through the events. I told the truth. About the account, the money, the manipulation, the months of silence. The night he showed up at my job, drunk and furious. The punch, the blood, the hospital. Rachel testified too. So did my manager. So did the officer who arrested him. There was no denying what happened. The bruises were still healing. The footage showed everything. Lionel didn't say much in his defense. Just a rehearsed apology that sounded like it was written by someone else. "Your Honor, I regret letting my emotions get the better of me. This has been a difficult time for our family." Our family. That phrase made my stomach turn. The judge didn't buy it. You could tell by the way she narrowed her eyes when he spoke, like she'd seen too many men like him before. He took a plea deal. No jail time. He avoided that by inches, but he got 3 years probation, 200 hours of community service, mandatory anger management, and a permanent restraining order that kept him 100 feet from me, my job, and my mother's house. It wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about boundaries. About making sure the door was locked and the key was thrown away. After the hearing, I walked out with my mom. She hugged me in the parking lot, tighter than she had in years. "You did it," she said. "You stood up to him." I nodded, but I didn't feel proud. I felt exhausted. Like everything I had been carrying for so long had finally fallen off my back, and I wasn't sure what to do with my arms anymore. A week later, the local news picked up the story. Small-town gossip goes far when the man in question used to be the face of every charity gala. The headline read, "Financial advisor sentenced for assaulting son after alleged embezzlement." They used a photo of him from years ago, smiling, holding a glass of champagne. The irony burned. 2 days after that, my grandmother changed her will. She'd always played neutral in the family drama, but when she saw the footage, she called my mom and said, "That man will never get another cent from me." She rewrote everything, cutting Lionel out completely. That stung him more than the court ruling. And Cassandra? She filed a civil suit, separate from the divorce, claiming identity theft and fraud. Apparently, he'd used her name on several credit card applications to float his fake lifestyle. Her lawyer included my evidence. Every document. Every lie. It was over for him. Legally, financially, publicly. As for me, I started fresh. Scholarship aid came through thanks to letters from my principal and a few teachers who vouched for my work ethic. I got a new job at a warehouse, nothing glamorous, but stable. I bought a cheap but reliable used car. For the first time, everything I had was mine, earned, untouched by him. It wasn't a clean slate, but it was finally mine to ride on. I heard about Lionel's new job from Marcus, who couldn't stop laughing when he told me. He's working at a call center, he said between chuckles. Debt collection. I didn't laugh. I just sat with it for a second, letting the irony settle. The man who used to brag about high-net-worth clients and five-figure poker nights was now reading from a script in a windowless cubicle, begging people to pay their phone bills. His office? A rundown strip mall off the freeway. His car? Gone. Repossessed. Now he took the bus. He rented a studio apartment in a rough part of town, the kind of neighborhood he used to lock the doors while driving through. Cassandra had gutted him in the divorce. Zoe had moved in with her mom's sister in Florida. He was alone. Once upon a time, Lionel was the guy who shook hands with city council members, hosted wine tastings in our backyard, and corrected people if they called his suit off the rack. Now he was a cautionary tale. Neighbors whispered. Clients ghosted. Friends vanished. The community that once praised his charm now pretended they'd never liked him in the first place. Sometimes I'd hear little updates. Someone would mention seeing him at the grocery store, buying canned soup and off-brand coffee, or spotting him walking alone in the rain, hoodie up, face hidden. But I never ran into him, and I never reached out. He tried a few more times. A birthday email, a voicemail on Thanksgiving, a long, rambling letter that arrived in January, no return address, just 5 pages of twisted apologies and half-blame. I didn't respond to any of it, but I won't lie. Sometimes, late at night, I'd think about it. I'd sit in my tiny apartment, the one I paid for with my own money, every dollar earned by my own work, and wonder if I had gone too far. If I'd been too brutal. If maybe, just maybe, there was a part of him that truly thought he was helping me in some backwards, broken way. But then I'd remember the look in his eyes the night he hit me. Cold. Entitled. Like I owed him something even then. I'd remember how he stole from me without hesitation. How he watched me struggle while he threw money at strangers. And I'd remember that he never said sorry. Not really. So no, I didn't forgive him. But I moved forward. I enrolled in school part-time. Took classes at night. Started dating a girl from the warehouse, someone who liked me for me, not for what I could provide or how well I played the part. I still carry the past with me. I won't pretend otherwise. But it doesn't weigh me down anymore. Because Lionel's story ended the way it was always going to. Alone, stripped of the lies he wrapped himself in, surrounded by the ashes of the life he tried to fake. And mine? Mine is just getting started.